All right, guys, welcome back to the How Can You podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of entrepreneurs, figure out how they got where they are, so then you can hopefully do the same thing. So today I'm here with Ken Conklin. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, first off, I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to share, spit some fire, just have some good conversation.
100%.
Quick little 30-second spiel about me is I run a men's mind and body training company. We focus on instilling discipline and intentionality into each area and domain of these men's lives. We have these weekly calls, as well as we do these epic kind of fitness boot camp style retreats around the world where we create brotherhood, camaraderie, and have a lot of fun, but also, again, like really toughen ourselves up mentally, emotionally, financially, right? All those different areas of that I believe is important for a man to be able to take charge and lead not only himself, but then also be able to lead other people.
Yeah, 100%. So I kind of want to start off with the early days, right? So I find a pattern with a lot of entrepreneurs that something happened in the early days, or something was a little bit different than, I would say, regular people that would go to school and get a job. I'm not sure if you did that, but yeah. So take me back to your early days. What kind of made you who you are, and these sort of things?
Yeah, for sure. So I went to an all-guys private Catholic high school, and I was the one kid that decided not to go to university. I was basically the poor kid at the rich kid's school. And that doesn't mean that everyone that went to that school had a lot of money, but most of the time, a lot of the people that went to this school, they're just going to go to college and join fraternities and have a good time and not really have to worry about the day-to-day stuff versus people like me. And of course, a lot of other people that went to the school, it was more like, shit, like the second we graduate, like we're adults. We're in the real world where like I don't have my college paid for and all this stuff. And I just realized at the young age of 18, kind of being around more of the preppy kids and realizing like, that's not me. And I kind of didn't like that crowd for a while. I kind of had like a bad taste in my mouth and chipped my shoulder to kind of be like, oh, their whole thing was like, oh, well, my dad's more successful than your dad. And for me, it was always like, why the fuck are you talking about your dad? Like, what about you? And I was thinking this at 16, 17, 18 years old. So I remember when I was 18, I made a commitment that I'm going to go become an entrepreneur. But I didn't know anything about what that was going to look like. But I did know that I loved fitness. I loved working out. And I loved making content with a camera. And this is back in 2015. So my whole 30-second background and how I kind of got into the stuff I do now is I moved out to California with a camera, started taking photos, ended up pitching an apartment complex that I lived at and saying, hey, I want to manage your Instagram. Again, this is back in 2015, 16. Not a whole bunch of content creators running around with cameras at the time. So I did that, and flash forward a month, the property company that owned all these different apartment complexes liked what I was doing, and there's an opportunity for me to become the marketing director at their whole entire parent company. So I basically had my own office. I was 19 years old, throwing on my little dress shirt and building websites, running ads and all that stuff. And then I got to a point where I realized like I can do this myself. And I started my own marketing business, moved out to Hawaii when I was 19. And essentially I've been doing that since then. But about 2 years ago, after a heartbreak and a transition and just like me kind of having a perspective towards my life and the world and kind of who I wanted to be, I shifted towards doing the men's work and really focused on prioritizing like my health, mentally, physically, and of course, but also realizing like I always wanted a tribe around me. I wanted brothers that I could count on, that I could get counsel from, that I could actually do fun things with, that had the same values as me. Yeah, I like having fun and disconnecting, but I also like productive leisure, meaning I like conversations that are going to grow my mind and grow my bank account, grow me in some way, right? I don't want to just go out to a club or go do random shit with random people that I'm not actually trying to grow with. That to me is just a waste of time. And I've had enough time periods in my life where I realize like sometimes the best company is yourself, because then you can go fast past the people that are not down to join you, or maybe secretly don't even want you to succeed and progress forward because they know they're not going to get there. So they're maybe holding you back, right? I'm all for bringing your friends and buddies and saying, hey, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to take my life. Come with me. But if they're not wanting to go, I'm not going to wait or just not go myself. So that's always been my whole thing, is like realizing I always struggled with not only like being alone, whether it was like needing relationship or just not being comfortable with myself, but then also realizing like, who am I attracting? I'm not this person that people are naturally going to be asking questions about, like, hey, how'd you get here? Or, what they could explain your mentality around this. I didn't have any of this, the muscle, the brain, the lifestyle, or anything So I realized I needed to work on myself, get to a point where I could actually be like, sick, I built a badass life for myself, internally and outward. And then I realized I wanted to build that community. So that's kind of what got me into the work I do now. And I think one of the biggest things that people struggle with, especially men in their 20s, say, for example, that are ambitious and, you know, love watching certain characters online. They go like, hey, I love what they're saying. I want to go this route too, is they need to be around people that are going to challenge them, but also like give them that support of like, bro, I love this video that got 10 views on YouTube. Fuck yeah. The people that are going to be like, I'm going to be here with you from the start, as well as when you're fucking popping off, blowing up. And too many people in our society, this kind of culture where it's so competitive, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's not positive. It's not supportive. It's competitive in the wrong way of like, no one really wants to see their other person succeed because they're not doing the work deep down to make sure that they get rid of their ego, right? But also that they're actually going to get there themselves. Mm-hmm. So I realized it's so important for me to qualify the people that I let into my life and going, hey, like, are you actually aligned with these values of, you know, support other people and, you know, preach your voice, whether it's to just, you know, your son and you're just being that leader in that way, or you're being a public figure and you're preaching out to the masses through the online tools and whatnot that we have available. Whatever it is, it's having that mentality of I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to be a man that gives more than I take, but also I'm going to demand that I build the exact life I want for myself and have that kind of grit and ruthless commitment to building badass shit. It's hard to find those people, but there's 8 billion people on the planet. Yeah. So for anyone that feels like they can't find their tribe, trust me, there's people out there that are like you. You just got to become that person that's going to attract them.
100%. Yeah. So I kind of want to go into, you said you had an ideology shift, right? So you had a heartbreak and you kind of had these shifting perspectives of like blue pill, red pill, you know, things. So do you want to talk to me about that?
For sure. So I think a man needs a dramatic experience to shake him out of apathy. So whether it is a heartbreak, right? She says, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Or she fucking cheats on you or whatever, right? I feel like most guys can relate to some sort of experience. And if you can't yet, well, it's coming. The universe is going to give it to you because every man needs that. But the thing is, that's the deciding point, the turning point where a man can go, do I want to just cry and not do anything about this? Or just say, hey, a lot of people go the black pill route of, I hate women are this. There's the red pill route of going, hey, this is what women are. I accept it, but I'm going to just play the game and win. And then there's the blue pill that just goes, well, maybe if I was nicer, maybe she would like me more. You know, like they're kind of those, if we distill it down to 3 categories, those are essentially it. And so I've been kind of like started at the blue pill, went towards the black pill for a little bit, and then went to the red. And by black pill, I mean like I just focus on myself, the kind of like MGTOW thing where there was like, after heartbreak a few years ago, I was just like, I'm done with women. I don't even want to date. I don't care about sex. I just want to work on myself. I needed that to get to the point where now I'm like, cool, I got like some things figured out mentally. I don't need someone anymore. Then I could go, you know, the red pill route of like, be like, okay, well, like, let me get back to the dating scene. And I said the past year and a half, 2 years has been a really important time period for me to actually like go on a lot of dates. Not necessarily sleep with a lot of people, but rather just have these like conversations of going out and maybe meeting someone for one night of dinner and just conversation. Or if it's like, you know, meet someone and go on a couple dates. Or if you're fortunate, which I've had with a handful of people, is like you really connect with them. You really can learn a lot. And you guys are like, wow, we're kind of vibing. You're still qualifying each other and hanging out and just seeing where it goes. But it's like, cool, now I can actually like start to get to know this person, have those more deeper conversations. I've been so blessed to have been able to like have more success with my dating life, quote unquote, because I've spent years like building myself up. So I think a lot of guys that are at that point, or maybe they're like, man, like I don't have a struggle with getting laid. There's a challenge, which not recently, but because, you know, it's hard to find someone that you really do connect with, is like finding someone that you're like, wow, like this person could be a partner. A lot of guys just want to have sex for like, I think most guys actually, if they're really honest with themselves, they want intimacy. Yeah, and intimacy, yeah, you can have the physical aspect, but it's also like the emotional. Is like being able to have a girl that just throws her leg on top of yours, right? It's different if she puts her hand on your dick. That means like she's getting sexual, but it's just like, you know, like rubbing your arm or whatever. Like that's not necessarily a sexual gesture, but rather is like showing like intimacy, like, hey, like I'm here, and like that little stuff, like that to me is like what I value more than 100 experiences with someone that I don't care about, right? With 100 different people. I'd rather have that partner. I think most men would too. But the problem is, a lot of guys are going about the process of trying to get that by, maybe it's the red pill mentality of like, oh, I need to not prioritize my woman, right? There's all these red pill laws you can find on YouTube, which I was, so deep in that rabbit hole for a while, and I was implementing that myself. And there was a relationship about like a year and a half ago, or a year, I don't know now, but I just realized like I prioritized my business and myself, to the extreme where like I think I just didn't prioritize her as well. And that's a problem that a lot of guys need to realize. And for anyone that's watching this going like, oh, this isn't important, right? Well, think about, you care about your business and your success. What's the biggest leading cause of losing money? A divorce. So if you are thinking, oh, I don't need to prioritize my woman, I need to prioritize my business, but then you end up getting married and then you get divorced, now you're wiped out clean. Well, dumbass, you should have been focusing on these other areas, because now like that is a business move. And to even think about like having your mental health dialed in, where you feel supported. You come home after being on the battlefield and trying to close clients or put out fires with your team, whether it's yourself or whoever it is, being able to have that spiritual and emotional recharge, like that is such a big factor of like me being able to make progress in my life. I'm fortunate to have a girlfriend right now, and she's so we have such a great understanding of like her feminine energy and my masculine energy, and how we have the polarity that complements each other, to where like we can be playful, we can be sexual, we can be intellectual, and I enjoy just talking with her, like hanging out with her, going to the gym, doing these things. And it's been a long time since I've been able to find someone where I'm like, wow, like this person actually checks off all those boxes. But I think the universe's way of finally allowing us to meet at the right time and circumstance was like we both were just so focused on building ourselves up and being that great catch for that ideal partner. I think most people need to realize that if they want to attract their ideal partner, they need to become the ideal partner. Physically, of course, take care of your body. Those days where you're like, man, I had a long day and I don't feel like going to the gym. Like, are you going to go to the gym for you? Which you definitely should. At the end of the day, if that doesn't motivate you, maybe it's, hey, well, I'm tired of being alone. I want to be able to, have sexy time with a person I love that I'm also growing with. Well, let me make sure I'm doing this for that future person. And that can apply to any of those areas, whether it's the money aspect, if it's just like, hey, sometimes I can just spend time by myself and know that as long as I'm not going backwards, in a way I'm going forwards, because I'm at least making sure that I'm not losing progress, or maybe at least making a small amount of progress forward by just working on my mind. So that way tomorrow when I wake up, I'm energized and I'm ready to go.
100%. So I think like a lot of guys, especially in the Western world, they start off blue pill because I think of the way that the society almost like programs us, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, be nice, like all these. So we end up blue pill, and then that makes us get our heart broken.
Yeah.
And we end up finding the red pill, and then we're like totally like against, like we like go down that route. But I think I really like the way you put that of like the balance of the two, because I think it's really important. Because I mean, for me personally, deep down, I want to be able to be, I guess, the blue pill side. You want to be able to be nice and not have to do all these things. But the only reason you do red pill is because you don't want to lose, or you don't want to. And so that's why I think that's really good the way you put that, is because it's like a balance of both. Mm-hmm. And you need the red pill and you need the blue pill. You need both aspects of it. I totally agree.
So if I were to like break down my journey over the past, like I say, 2 years maybe of like shifting my like mentality towards dating, and maybe let's say 3 years. Time flies. I'm 26 now, so I have to like think about like, wow, when I was 23 was when I got heartbroken. So I guess in a way it's like 3.5, whatever the hell it is. But I do know that like you have to develop that like mental kind of headspace to be able to be like, hey, like if I get heartbroken, I'm not going to be the guy that's fucking crawling up on on the floor. And if you need to be that for a day or two, like cool, do that if you need to. But like don't be that guy that just says, oh, life sucks, right? Like no, fucking get over it. But again, like how do you do that? Well, you work on yourself, but you also need to have that perspective of understanding that, like I don't have any bad shit that happens. I'm so thankful that my parents are still alive. And I hope that they stay alive for a long time. But I know that when my parents die, like I'm going to be sad for sure. That's a very unfortunate experience, or any sort of family member. But the thing is, like, I know that my life is still great. I have a wonderful life and I have family. No one will ever replace my mom or my dad. But I can definitely have new people that I consider family. So I think people need to realize that, whatever bad shit that maybe has happened to them or maybe is coming to them, it's like, one, yeah, you want to like move forward, but that's hard at times. Maybe what you need to do is focus on seeing how good your life is and how it could always be worse, to start to have gratitude to allow you to go like, wow, like, things aren't really that bad. And then, so you develop that mental strength, right? And then you get to a point where you got to have game. That's where some of the red pill stuff for sure is necessary, because it's like, hey, like, focus on you and like chase excellence and you will have a woman come to you for sure. I noticed such a big difference with just like my body. Not saying that I could just be on the beach and girls go come up to me, but it's like if you're at a beach and you go have a conversation, you bet your fucking ass that having a body where your pecs and abs are popping out is a very different experience than just going up to a girl shirtless and, having a beer belly sticking out or man titties. Like, those are definitely aspects that are important, but that's just the physical. Actual game is being able to stimulate a woman's mind and also, spark that emotional, connection and whatnot. And that comes from just, one, being comfortable in your skin, but then two, also knowing some things about like, hey, how can I go have the mentality of always improve the situation, right? Or do little things to surprise her. Like my girlfriend, Leia, for example. When we're just kind of starting to date, I do little things like, she likes chocolate. She mentioned that, if she's on her period, she likes to have chocolate. So little times I'll go to the grocery store and just like, while I'm getting my protein milk after the gym, also get a chocolate. But I'm not going to tell her I'm getting the chocolate. I'm going to go get it and then go put on the pillow or be like, hey, can you pass me that? She'll go lift it up and there's a fucking chocolate there. Like little things like that you can surprise a woman and have her not know what's going to happen next, meaning you have that mysterious element. That is what I would say game is. And every man needs to develop that. That doesn't mean that it's going to work for every woman or you're going to be like this guy that just has this magic solution to just getting a woman interested in you. No, there's no like math problem where it's like 2 + 2 = 4 with that. But you can have the odds kind of be in your favor where you realize, if I can get better at surprising a woman and creating that element of curiosity and getting her intrigued of going, I don't know what this man is going to do next, And then you play it cool and you like act like it's not a big deal. That's where I think things really get into your favor.
Yeah, mysterious aspect is so crucial.
Yeah,
I think. So I want to talk about, I guess, the Western world and why we're growing up as like almost blue pill. Why are we seeing a rise of masculine women and feminine men?
for sure. Well, I believe feminism brought the idea of allowing equality, which I am all for, right? Women can vote. Women can do all these things. I believe now it's gone to a point where, feminism, just that phrase, oftentimes means like, well, we can be men too, and we can do the same things that men can do. And it's like, do you want that? Like, there's all these conversations talking about, like, oh, well, if you want to have, equality, go do the jobs of like construction and all that stuff. Like, women don't want to do that. And the thing that drives me nuts, like, I don't even talk about too much just because it's so ridiculous to me, but like, I'll address it on here is like, the people that say like men and women are not different, like, you fucking idiot. Like, I don't even have to talk about why that's a silly thought process. And that's one of the things that really drives me nuts is, like I grew up basically like with a single mom, right? My mom and dad are both in my life, but my mom had full custody and I had pretty much, or a majority custody. I would stay with her most of the time and sometimes see my dad. My mom moved across states and I ended up seeing my dad maybe like over the summertime of the year. So like I didn't have a father figure around, teaching me all these things that like would have been helpful, especially with like the conversations of like sex or getting a heartbreak or whatnot. Like I heard all these things from my mom saying, you need to be a gentleman, always hold the door open and all these things, which are important. But I didn't get the conversation of, hey, a woman's going to come into your life and cheat on you or break your heart or these things. And what's the best way to overcome that? Have her see you with someone that's more attractive, but also have you just be comfortable with understanding that your life took a turn and you're going in a new direction. Like, that's a very healthy way that I think most people agree with. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, go kill him with kindness and kill him with success. But also at the same time, like, if you can have someone stop living in your head, meaning like you don't have the golden shackles of, oh, I'm going to go work so hard to prove that person wrong when like you haven't talked to them in 2 years. Like, they're not even in your life. That was me. That was my story from my 18-year-old heartbreak. I spent 2 or 3 years trying to prove this, person that like I'm going to be great without going to college and all this stuff. So I moved into a mansion when I was 21 with a couple entrepreneur friends. I went and did public speaking. I did all this stuff at a young age to basically validate myself because I didn't have that internally. I had that externally. So when I had my second heartbreak when I was like 22, 23, I think I was 22. Fuck, I don't even know. But and the point is, I just realized that wow, I don't want to repeat these same cycles. What do I need to shift? And that's what again led me to my men's work of realizing I need to be solid in my own frame. Meaning I could have whatever shit going wrong outside of myself or internally, meaning my heart's fucking crushed and this person just ripped it out and put it in the blender, right? That's a painful feeling. And some people can, a lot of guys I'm sure will resonate with that. I think it's so important for men to have that strong father figure around to teach them to overcome that heartbreak or whatever shit they're going to go through with a woman, but in a healthy way of going hey, yeah, don't be that crazy guy that goes and shoots up a school or the Ala Vista, Santa Barbara thing. It was this guy that was talking and making videos online. I forgot his name. I'm not about promoting all the negativity, but it's a lot of these things are about a woman or a man being heartbroken. And so it's men's mental state definitely needs to be addressed. And what's one of the best ways that I've noticed in my own life that I've been able to go from depressed and at times in my life suicidal and just really just at a dark place to being that's fucking great. Well, 1, sunshine. 2, working out. 3, having good people in your life. 5, 4, whatever the number is. Shifting my perspective and just really upgrading my understanding. A lot of people can do therapy, which in a ways I guess that would be it. I didn't go to a therapist. I have my own process that I consider my own therapy. And but on overall, it's understanding how to let go of things in whatever form that is, whether it is the gym, whether it is doing fucking jump rope or gymnastics or rock climbing, whatever your hobby is, or maybe it's actually having conversations with someone that you pay. For me, it's I'm all for I'm not the type of person saying yo, you need to go this route of you need to get a therapist or you need to go to college, right? I'm all about outside the box, whatever works for you. A lot of things work for different people. For me, it's been the outlet of mind and body training, as well as having people that share those same perspectives. So many guys get heartbroken. So many guys go through the same kind of experiences. They're just different stories and details. So you can be around those people that you can relate with and be hey, we both have felt complete shit after being heartbroken, or our business went to shit and we feel we're not able to be successful compared to all these guys you see online. Whatever those conversations are where you're able to be wow, I relate to you. Well, hey, let's figure this shit out. We're not going to give up because now we got each other. That's the thing that I think a lot of people would benefit from if they actually were to seek that. So it's stop looking for happiness in the same place you're losing it, whether it is I'm just going to distract myself by drinking, all this stuff. It's maybe just go find those right people, listen to these podcasts, and your life will change.
Mm-hmm. So for someone at home that's watching this, they know that they need to surround themselves with the right people. Maybe their friends at home are not, they're not going to the same places that they're going to, right?
Yeah.
How do they do that? How do they find these people? They don't know where they are.
How did we meet? Tell me.
Improvement. If I didn't start the journey of self-improvement.
Specifically, yeah. So your journey led you to a specific place. What was the actual place that we met at?
The
Yes. So we both either had someone else tell us about Luke, or we just came across him from an interview or whatever the hell it was. We decided, hey, I'm going to go to this event. I drove an hour and a half from Ubud, Bali. I was still in Bali, right? Our journeys led us to this island of just digital nomad, paradise, all this stuff. But specifically, we decided to go to an event where we knew there would be people that were like-minded, that were our kind of demographic, young, male, that are ambitious and cool dudes, right? Not nerds, actual dudes that, yeah, we're intellectual, but we're also fun to hang out with. We're cool guys. We both chose to go to a place to where we get connected with other people. So when other people are watching this video going, I want to be around those people, well, yeah, they can go watch videos like this, but that's only going to get you so far. Maybe they need to go DM you and say, I would love to be a guest on your podcast. Or they see a video that you post and they go, hey man, I would love to go get coffee with you and pick your brain. I'd love to, take you out to dinner or something, right? People can go do those specific actions of going to a place or contacting a person and have their life changed and shifted in a completely different way through just that.
100%. I like to say what Ed Milet says is you're one decision away from a completely different reality. You're one contact, you're one call, you're one whatever, just one more away. And yeah, I think it's a very brilliant concept. Let's go talk more about dating and like the polarity of like the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to get into a little bit more of like the feminist stuff of like the things that it's led women to believe that they think is right, but deep down they know they don't want that. They know it, but they convince themselves or someone else has convinced them that that's what they want. Let's talk about that.
So yeah, so I had two specific conversation points that tie in with that. One is I remember going on a date, which was like the most dreadful and draining date I've ever been on. It was actually a couple of weeks ago, right before I met the person I'm dating right now, Leia. This woman was from the States. She very proudly said, like, yeah, I'm a feminist, I'm a liberal, and all this stuff. Hey, I have conservative values. I also have like things I do agree with the liberal stuff of like if I have gay friends and people that want to transition, cool. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna go hold up a flag being like gay rights, because like I don't see how people are in that community not given the same advantages. I'm also not in that community, so it's not like I'm talking against it. I'm just like not in that, so it just doesn't really apply to me, right? So I'm not feeling the need to go fight a battle that like I don't even see as like an issue. So with this woman I went on a date with, I remember she was telling me about like all these things, like conservatives are this, conservatives are that, and like we're in fucking Bali. Yeah, we both are from the States, we share that. But like I'm talking about self-improvement and just like a lifestyle of travel and all this stuff. And somehow she's constantly steering all these conversations towards hating Republicans and, like this, being a hardcore liberal. And it's like the fact, like, so that just told me very quickly. And I remember saying this, like, we're not a good match. And I said that proudly because then I was just like, this is just like going to be fun for me to like, talk with and like challenge her on some viewpoints. But then it didn't even become fun. It just got to a point where I was just drained socially. And I was just like, I need to go to bed now because I'm fucking tired. But no, the point is like a lot of people, whether it is you're a feminist or you're whatever, it's like, like, why are you trying to fight specific battles? Meaning, like, do you actually feel that there's something that you need to stand for, which I'm all for? If you see, like, again, maybe in your own life, within your story, and everyone's story is different. My background, my story may not even have witnessed any sort of issue that someone is very passionate about. But if they're just passionate about something because they got no other shit going on, which I think is the majority of people, is they want to have a sense of identity, right? And they want to have something that they get attention for. Or like everyone kind of wants some validation or being like, hey, good job, right? But the problem is I think a lot of people are finding that from just going, hey, I need to go be this person that's also changing my profile picture to having all these cool colors, the flag, right? It's like, I support gay people too, but I don't feel the need to go, make my whole brand and like identity about this because I have my own shit I'm working on. I'm working on my life, getting my house in order. I think a lot of people need to just focus on getting their house in order and realizing what are my passions or what are the specific things that I do want to fight for. Because again, I think everyone should have some sort of message or thing that they're trying to support in one way. But recognize like you don't just have to pick the most popular thing. Right now in the States, and I think a lot of the world too, is like, the specific conversations of like this group is what's the word? It's like, but I can't think of a word right now. It's like, they're marginalized or they're not being supported or acknowledged or whatever. It's like, okay, like what are the specific changes that need to be made? And I feel like a lot of these causes don't actually have specific solutions of, hey, here's the problem and here's the solution, or here's the problem and what do you guys think is a solution? Because again, like I'm all for making sure everyone feels that they are safe, that they can speak their mind and be who they want to be. But that doesn't mean, it's not the same thing as saying everyone else needs to say that I'm this or like recognize me as this. And that's where I think it gets kind of confusing and gets to a point where I'm like, wow, the U.S. is so divided. I call it now the divided states of America, because it's like you can't even go about your day-to-day life without, say, having a conversation with 20 people and having half of them dislike you if you're one side or the other. And so I just realized, like, wow, I'm just kind of done with the States. It's like a sinking ship. Imagine a ship is sinking and there's an island nearby, whether that's Bali or Thailand or wherever. It's like there's a land that's beautiful, and you're like, hey, guys, let's get off here. Let's go over there and go start fresh. And everyone's like, no, I'm going down with this ship. We need to change this. And they're fighting over dumb shit. And it's like sinking. And I'm like, all right, well, I invited you out this way. You didn't want to come? No worries. I'm going to get the fuck off this boat right now. And I'm going to bring some people with me. Or maybe I'm going to go to the place where everyone's like, man, we're just sitting back on the beach looking at that boat that's sinking. And it's like, and then this is a good metaphor too. And it's actually what I had a conversation on with that date that I was talking about. I brought the same metaphor, and she was like, well, you know, maybe there's an older woman that can't get off the boat, or maybe there's people with family. You're just a individual that's so, you know, a single male that, you know, is white and in his 20s. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go carry someone. I don't care. Like, yeah, I'm a single male. I'm masculine. Cool. I believe my role is to also support others. I'll go carry 2 people if I need to. Fine. But like, yeah, there's always a little thing of, oh, well, this person's like, if you get to a point where I think having peace, which I've found in my life, especially over the past like 6 months, is just get out of the environment where there's all the stupid, dumb conversations that don't ever lead anywhere. There's no solutions that people are looking for. It's just saying you're wrong and I'm right.
Yeah.
Get out of it, and then your life gets a lot better.
100%. I think that's my biggest problem with like the liberal ideology is like, one, they don't take self-responsibility. So it's like everything's someone else's fault.
For sure. I've noticed that big time. And that's why I'm just like, when someone says I am a liberal, I'm just like, are you should just shut up and just like realize like I'm not going to get along with this person.
Yeah. And it's also like the other one is like, oh, you don't believe in this, you're bad, you're wrong. Or else it's like,
it's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's also like, for example, if I were to say to most of the girls in the Western world, or most of the girls in my city back home, that I like Andrew Tate, now I'm evil. But
for sure,
if we dive deep into this, right? The reason that they hate Andrew Tate, the reason that I'm evil because me liking Andrew Tate is because he's been clipped up and purported in a certain way, and the algorithms push these certain contents to the girls. They never actually dive deep into him with context. And it's like, yeah, I think his biggest message is just like the same values that we have is like, one, self-responsibility of like just having the ideology that like everything's your fault. Because if you believe that everything is your fault, then you have the power to change it all. If nothing's your fault, then you cannot change it. So yeah,
I think with that, because I want to add some too, is like I've noticed like every woman I've had a conversation with that like I don't bring up that name, but they do, or like, hey, wait, what's your thoughts on this person? It's always funny to me because I'm like, okay, like I'm an honest person, but I also know that like with, you know, that Andrew Tate, it's like, yeah, he's been clipped up, and like, again, those are things he said. Like I don't even have a thing that comes to mind because I just now, like, again, like on my page, because I'm into masculinity and self-improvement and discipline, I see videos of his that get up, and I throw that like on there because I see him talking about, you know, like chase excellence, focus on yourself, and like go build up your mind, focus on going to the gym. Like those are all conversations that are great. But I feel like he's also changed his focus of like conversation to being like, before it was like, hey, if I want to go get famous, like I would say some outlandish shit, and he crushed it with that, right? But it's, and like that's where like I can also see the difference between satire and like comedy, and yeah, it's like certain messages of just like improve yourself aren't going to get tens of millions of views, but certain conversations that can be very polarizing certainly will. Yeah, it's interesting because like, yeah, to be able to like give someone the opportunity, and even another example is like, say, Trump or like Tucker Carlson. I am shocked that there's people that like very much hate Tucker. Like if you've actually watched like long videos of him, it's like he's very well put together. He's very direct and concise, and also like clear on his viewpoint and what he's addressing. He's for freedom of speech, just like Ben Shapiro and whatnot. All these people like the Daily Wire, where like I think they're conservative, but they're also like kind of just in the middle, where they're like just like saying like, hey, you know, I'd have never heard, say, like Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson say things like, you we should like any sort of bad thing about say like the LGBTQ community or whatever, like someone that's gay or on the left. It's just like it's the actions that they do are saying like, no, you don't view me as this, therefore you're bad. I have a problem with that too. If someone were to tell me that I'm bad because it's like, okay, you're dressed as a girl, awesome, cool. Like I'm not gonna, I don't feel the need to go say something to you that I know is gonna offend you. But if you're coming up to me, look at me in the eye, confronting me, saying, am I a girl? And I see a fucking mustache and you're wearing a wig, I'm gonna say no. I don't care about the repercussions. But that's also why it's great, because I canceled, like, of course, maybe if Instagram, and I don't want this, but like if those platforms wanted to just get rid of me, that's the only way I can really get canceled. I'm self-employed. I think a lot of people, with especially with like the direction that our society is going with technology, is like you can make sure that you're not at the mercy of a corporation or like sponsors or whatnot. So that way you can actually be yourself and say the things you want. You can make sure that you want to bring in money. Well, cool. Like develop your own service or product and go sell to people. That's like what the Daily Wire has done. They have their own platform where they charge money versus having to worry about, say, like some big sponsor, say Pandora Music or Spotify. Like maybe they would get in trouble, or maybe they don't align with certain messages that like the Daily Wire or Ben Shapiro would say, so that they choose not to support them financially. Well, they just created their own, platform for movies and all that stuff. So like there's alternatives nowadays where people can speak their mind and quote unquote get canceled and not have their life be altered or like changed in some drastic way. So I think that is something that's very good for the world now, is because, yeah, we can kind of no longer be afraid of, oh, that person says they want to cancel me. Well, it's like, okay, well, the world's kind of waking up to all this bullshit is basically what I'm trying to say.
100%. It's like, I remember I used to, when Trump got elected, I was in grade 8.
How old are you now?
19.
19, okay.
Yeah, so when Trump got elected, I was in grade 8, and I remember thinking, oh, Trump's bad, Trump's all these things, but I never actually dove into what he was saying or anything. It was just a belief that was basically, like, I find that they manufacture these beliefs and they say, here, take this.
Well, it's because he says things that are offensive to some people, but like, I don't think I've ever been offended by something Trump has said.
Yeah.
He said things I can see how they would offend other people, and maybe it's because like it hasn't impacted me, but like I see work that he does for the Black community as well as Hispanic community. His whole mentality that, like, this is again like what I think, just based on what I've seen, is like build a wall, make sure that people that want to come into the states, and this is where people get so mad, is when they say like, we don't want rapists and we don't want this. Well, people are saying that, oh, like you're calling Mexicans rapists. Well, hold on, you didn't say that. You're associating people from Mexico being rapists or whatever by saying, he said this statement of we don't want rapists and all these bad people coming into our community. Like, they can come from anywhere in the world. They can come in and fly to Mexico and then go in from there, or go on a boat to Mexico and come up through the border. Like, the point is, be able to know who's coming in and out of our country. That makes sense. Just like any of my household. If I have someone come into my house, you bet your ass I want to know who they are. And I want to also invite them in. If, like, they knock on my door, I'm the one that gets to look through the peek hole and decide if I want to open that door. Because what if they have a gun? What if they want to rob me? Or maybe they just want to come in and give me some cookies and say, hey, I'm your new neighbor. Cool. Let's have a conversation. Sit down. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, I don't even focus on politics too much, so I can't even, like, go talk too in depth to, like, defend certain people. I just know what I've seen to where I'm like, no, that makes sense. Oh, this person's so triggered by this thing that makes sense. You're kind of crazy. That's, I think, a good breakdown.
Yeah, no, it's true. But like I was saying, like, I had these ideologies that weren't even mine.
Yeah.
They were just, I guess, passed to me, some through the media or the teacher, the school, whatever it may have been.
Yeah.
And it took me until I guess started to consume, like, really get into the world of self-improvement, that I started actually thinking for myself and like, wait, this isn't actually the way things are. I'm like, wait, I thought that, but is it true? Like, I used to strongly believe in, like, that depression is caused by chemical imbalance. I would argue with my dad on this, but then now I'm like, is it really? Because, like, one, there's no evidence, but two, it's like we're living such unfulfilling lives that, like, no wonder you're depressed. No wonder you hate your life. You don't like your life at all. You work at a job you hate. You're in debt. You live in a terrible city. Like, all these things. So, yeah.
I think it's ridiculous for someone to associate their life not being the way they want it with some sort of like either made up, or even again like saying, oh, like maybe this thing is real, and there is a science behind it, and therefore I'm the victim. Like for me, I control everything in my life. I've never had cancer. I hope I never get cancer. And I don't even know much about cancer, but I have had a handful of people tell me, like, because I'm into biohacking, I'm very into understanding how to like reprogram my body and do simple little hacks and shifts to basically make my body work better and function more efficiently. I've had people tell me that if you ever find out you get cancer, it started within your body, therefore you can get rid of it within your body. And there's a lot of different conversations on fasting. Again, like I'm not saying like, oh, if you have cancer, this, like I just heard from other people that have told me that are very knowledgeable and even well respected that have said like, no, like all this shit that, you know, like we're always having problems that we get within our body. And we're finding like like pills or like things to put in our body versus like recognizing like maybe it's the shit that we already are putting in our body that's causing certain diseases or issues. And I'm very passionate about this topic of knowing that like the shit you're putting in your body is most likely creating different diseases and fucking up your whole system. And that of course will play into how you feel, right? If you're not getting sunlight, you're not working out, taking care of your body, being able to get a good sweat every day, well, of course you're going to feel pissed off. Like I work out every day, sometimes just for a short little ab workout, but majority of the time for at least a 45-minute to an hour long session of just getting a good sweat, getting my body to feel good. Because not only do I look good, but also just like I feel good. I've released that energy, I have those endorphins and you know, all the different chemicals within my body that, you know, just get altered by actually doing some sort of exercise that totally shifts my perspective, outlook, and mood. Mm-hmm. I get good sleep, I eat good food, but then you have people that have the conversations of, well, I can't afford to eat good food. Okay, and this is what really is like kind of funny to me. You have all these people that say, oh, well, you know, say they're in their 30s. And this is where I think there's a big difference between like our generation versus like an older generation is accountability seems to be like a common and like even like self-improvement. And the belief that you can go create the life you want for yourself is becoming more popular because we have like these online tools where like we can control the channels that we watch. We can subscribe to someone, follow someone, and pay attention to their content and only be consuming those conversation points versus before it was always whatever the, you know, big tech and mass media was pushing out. So now like, I don't even know what's on the news because I don't watch it. Yep. I just find the clips of the most ridiculous stuff that commentators will react to. And I just do that for leisure, but not because I'm looking to gain new information. Mm-hmm. I have found my own process that works well for my life of just, you know, daily non-negotiable protocols and improving myself and recognizing that I can shut out all these things that are outside of me and just focus on my life and focus on, I'm putting my money towards good food. I'm putting my physical body in a good environment such as Bali, Indonesia, or but in other countries, but like I'm outside of my little bubble to where now I've expanded my viewpoint of what the world is, what people are like, whether it's with dating, doing business, just even day-to-day life. I talk to people that, the Balinese people, the locals, they're the most happy and friendly people I've ever met in my life. Yeah. Versus you go to the States and walk around and see a kid on his iPad and he looks mad or like he's crying and like having a little fit. And it's like, dude, like people out here from the age of like 2 years old to when they're 80 are just so happy and, you know, smiling, waving, versus you don't see that in the States. Yeah. And that alone, and like, you know, there's not as much money here. So I think that even has a factor of like, because there's a lot more money in the States or big in different places like Canada, different, you know, parts of Europe where there are the access to like different medications of, oh, I'm depressed on this, so let me go take this. Or, you know, I'm going to go eat junk food. I'm going to go eat this shit food and, you know, poison my body. Like I've just gotten to a point where I've seen all these common trends of, wow, like these daily actions and habits of, you know, people in these parts of the world are so different than this, and yet they're so depressed or they're this versus I come to a place like this where there's like oftentimes less money and less, you know, say resources, but their lives are better.
Yeah, it's like, I think it reminds me of like we almost take data from real life. We take all the data around us and we kind of put it together, take other people's data, but it's all within our life, right?
Yeah.
Whereas instead of like the other side of that would be to listen to all these studies about the food or the drugs or this and then that. And it's like, are those really real? First of all, I think one, they're oftentimes very biased because they're funded by a company that's trying to push a narrative, like maybe a pharmaceutical company or a processed food company.
Sure, 100%.
So it's like, maybe you could send me an article about chemical imbalance and prove me wrong, but I'm still looking at my surroundings.
And you're also putting into practice, like, okay, let me hear these people saying that depression is not real, that you're in full control. Okay, well, let me go do what they're saying. And then you realize, well, like, I do feel better.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a placebo effect. I'm not saying it's not. But the point is, if that leads to you going, well, I got rid of this problem that I thought I had, that all these people were telling me I had, well, like, why would you not go spread that message? And the fact that people get upset about that, and like, I had an ex-girlfriend one time that was, funny enough, she identified as a liberal and feminist and all these things. And I realized after a while, like, we just have a different perspective towards the world. It's like that alone just like tells me, I'm not, I try not to be closed-minded of saying, oh, you're someone say, oh, well, I believe in these things. Like, I'm all for being like, okay, cool. Like, let's find out, like, what are the specific things that we agree with and disagree on, so we can actually understand that perspective versus maybe having a closed-minded viewpoint of that other person, either side, right? Just on what that term typically means. That kind of went off topic, but what was the last point?
That's good. I think I was talking about, I guess, like data, like real life data versus like study.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So I had a girlfriend that was like not really fond of the work that I do, which is obviously like that won't work for us, because it's like, what do you mean? Like, you don't support me and like the mission I'm trying to do. You don't see like I'm trying to support guys. I have videos that are 5 to 10 minutes long of guys talking about the impact that the work and the coaching I've had with them does. And of course, like, there's science that backs like fitness and all this stuff definitely helps for sure. So it's like there's irrefutable evidence that the self-improvement work that I do is definitely beneficial. But there are elements where like I just incorporate things because I'm a creative person. I think of things, I test it out in my own life, and if it works well, then I'll go share with another person or put into practice with my clients. And I've had an ex-girlfriend that would be like, oh, well, the science says this doesn't actually help them in the long run. It's actually harmful. Meanwhile, I have these guys being like, I got over that breakup. I feel so much better. Or like, wow, like I feel good. Not in like, wow, I'm able to get over it. Now I'm like, yeah, fuck woman, I'm going to go crush it. It's like, it's typically the healthy balance of like, yeah, I want to go succeed in the world, but also realize like, I don't want to have that weight on me. I feel free. That's really the biggest thing. And I think this even ties with the conversation of toxic masculinity. I think that whole phrase, toxic masculinity, is interesting because I think a lot of the traits that people associate with that term aren't actually masculine traits at all, right? I think that masculinity, is all about emotional control and resilience. That doesn't mean you don't have emotions, but it means like be able to regulate your system of, hey, if I'm feeling sadness, how am I going to act based upon this emotion? I definitely think it's so important to reflect on emotions and be able to process, even release. There's many different ways you can do that. But Stoicism, the practice of, being in control of your thoughts and, whatnot, and like being more disciplined and believing that suffering is the greatest form of leading to a success down the road. Like, I'm all for that. And that's this type of stuff that we preach. When people say like, or like say Jordan Peterson, the conversation of, strive to be the most dangerous man in the room, but also the most controlled, like, for sure. If I have a bad thing that's happening around me, you bet your ass I want to have people around me that are on my side, that are very dangerous, capable people. But I also want to make sure that in my little community, that the people that live there are like, healthy minded and like able to be, good people. And that just comes down to the values you live by, but also making sure, again, like, your mental health is a priority, that people are taken care of. And there's so many conversation topics to like dive into, and hopefully I'm not like segueing too much, but yeah, it's just interesting because I think at the end of the day, like, if for someone to get some sort of value from this conversation is like, I think if they practice discipline and intentionality of going like, what is it that I actually want in my life? Whether it's to change it, of making more money, improve my dating life, just be overall a better man at the, internally of how I feel about myself. It's like, be more cautious of where you're putting your energy, who you're spending that time with. And if you feel like you don't have those resources or the people around you that would inspire you or teach you things that you don't already know, well, then that's where you have to recognize that, well, maybe I need to rewrite my story, or maybe I need to get out of my environment. And at the end of the day, I've done that many times, and my life has changed each time, sometimes for the better, sometimes for a different way that in some ways could be better, but in some ways could be worse. But the point is, I've taken charge of my life.
Yeah.
I've written my story, and I'm not attached to my story going in an interesting way that may not be favorable, because at the end of the day, I'll be able to talk about it on a podcast.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was just taking charge, realizing that like everything is my fault. And I think it kind of started when I was like forced to move out, and I was like almost, I had no other choice. I was like, this is all up to me now. And like, it was like super liberating. You know, it was like one of the best things I guess that ever happened to me on my journey. And yeah, getting out of my environment too was huge, insanely huge, because like I left my hometown and I was growing, I was doing amazing, but then I came back and I was like, it was like I was just back in this like environment, and like I felt like all the growth that I was working on almost just like disappeared. But then I left again, and it's like back.
And one thing that is, so it's so important to be in the right environment and have the right people around you, for sure, because that's like a weapon for you. That's like a secret advantage that you can have that other people don't have.
Yeah.
But if you can also be the guy that doesn't allow his external environment affect him and how he's operating in that moment, that's where discipline comes in, right? Yeah. Motivation feels good. So does inspiration. Yeah. But discipline is doing the things that you know you got to do, or that you've committed yourself to doing, based no matter what you are feeling, or no matter where you're at, and how not favorable that may be, right? Maybe you're exhausted. You had a long-ass day of traveling. You haven't gotten to work out, and you're committed to working out every single day. Maybe it's 11:30 and you're like, fuck, I haven't worked out yet. The committed man will go, okay, well, maybe I don't have the strength and focus to do an hour-long leg workout. There's times where I'm like, no, fucking buckle down and just get it done. But there's also times where I'm like, okay, well, I know I have this non-negotiable I need to get done, so why don't I maybe do some abs? And then I'll make sure that tomorrow I have a more intense workout than I normally would have. Mm-hmm. There's ways you can assess and adapt, but at the end of the day, not negotiate. It's just simply pivot based on what you know you need to do, or what's actually the smartest, right? That's where intentionality comes in. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like too many people negotiate with their internal voice of going, they hear their internal voice saying, hey, you need to be doing these things, or stop watching this, stop scrolling, stop looking up your ex-girlfriend, stop whatever the action or habit that you're doing that you know is not healthy for you. Yeah. Yet you suppress that internal voice and say, no, shut up. I'm going to ignore you. That internal voice is God, or the universe, or it's your future self saying, bro, you're trying to go make money and move out of your mom's house. I'm telling you what you need to do. And you keep saying, shut up, la, la, la. I don't want to hear it. And like dumbass, like that's the voice that's guiding you. Yeah. And you're suppressing it. And I don't disregard my internal voice. I listen to it. And I have since I was 17, 18 years old. And that's why you and I are living lives that a lot of people don't ever get to live, or maybe they get to live at a way later date, because we've been fortunate where we've been young, following whatever that internal voice is, stepping into the unknown, getting out of our comfort zone, and then our lives change. You meet people, but it's all starting from that stepping point. I think most people need to just realize that if they take that step outside of what they know into a place that they don't know, but they believe may have some sort of impact, they're going to gain something no matter what. Either experience of knowing what they need to not do in the future, or they need to go, wow, that worked well. I need to get comfortable just taking that jump, because then I'll gain more skill sets and powers, and then eventually I'll not be afraid of just stepping out and wandering around.
Mm-hmm. So when someone is lacking discipline, do you think it's because they lack clear goals, or maybe it's they don't have a strong why? Or why do you think when someone, they want to be disciplined, they know that discipline is something that they need in their life, but they're not? Why do you think that is?
Well, commitment at the end of the day is the biggest thing. Like, how bad do you want to design a life to where you can go travel whenever you want? I'm about to fly to South Africa, go explore the homeland of my girlfriend. And it's like funny because it was just like decided like, hey, like I've never been there. Let's go. If I had a boss that had me report to a specific job and location every day, and I had to go ask for 2 weeks off in 4 months from now, our relationship would not work. I made a commitment a couple years ago that, you know what, with my dating life, I want to make sure that someone can ride shotgun in my life. Meaning they can just hop in and I'll say, hey, I'm not going to be your sugar daddy, but if you want to like come kick it with me and come in the direction that my life is going, and then if at any point you want to step outside, no worries. But I'm going here and I'm down to do a little detour or whatever, but overall, like that's where I'm going. I always knew deep down when I was trying to grow my agency or just going through like shit with a breakup or just feeling like I was so alone and isolated, not having a community, all those dark time periods that I didn't necessarily have a clear answer of how to get out of, I always knew that at the end of the day, this is the ideal life that I want to build for myself. The life that I'm living right now is exactly what I wanted when I was 18 years old. And while I'm like happy in many ways, I'm not satisfied. I know that I'm 26. What do I want to do when I'm 30? That's so exciting. And that's like almost, I don't even know what the feeling is. I think it's just like exciting because it's so unknown, but it's also like, wow, like I have such a good, happy life. But like, again, like I'm living like level 1 compared to what I know is my potential. So like, I know that there's so many different benchmarks that I need to hit, but I need to be clear on what those things are. So when I do go through tough times, and this ties back into your conversation of when someone's wondering, how do they develop more discipline? Well, they of course need to have a very clear goal of what's the perfect 10 out of 10 badass life that I want to build for myself. And then realizing, am I willing to sacrifice good for great? This is a good life, being able to, have a couple $100 to spend on the weekend and get some drinks with my buddies. But what about a great life of being able to go on yachts with your friends? I've done both of those. I've done, I have a little bit of extra change to, pay my bills and have some money left over when I was younger, to this be the lifestyle of I'm hanging out with public speakers or cool internet personalities or just these like dope people that aren't well known, but just doing cool shit around the world. Like that's always been way cooler than just hanging out with your buddies that aren't ambitious. Again, I'm all for bringing your buddies with you, passing on the knowledge, saying, hey, I figured out how we all can just go become successful, get rich, and go be free. But you'll learn oftentimes that those people aren't going to follow you. It's not your job to drag your friends with you to where you're wanting to go. It's your job to make sure that you design the life that you want to build. You get to the place that you belong, that you're supposed to be at, because there are people that are waiting for you over there. Or maybe even this shift in perspective that I don't think even what gets talked about too much online is maybe you need to actually show results and actually demonstrate and put numbers on the board so that people actually have faith in you. A lot of people think, oh, people don't believe in me, therefore fuck them. I had that mentality for a couple of years when I was younger, until I finally realized, like, hold on, like maybe I actually need to showcase how it's actually a reality, or I need to maybe break down the process and have people actually realize, like, and maybe document my life a little bit more and really showcase, like, look, here's my story, here's how I did it, and these are the actual problems and struggles that I dealt with or currently am dealing with, being transparent, but then also being realistic about being like, yeah, this is possible, you can do this, and then getting them to realize based on hearing your process, mapping out their own process in their mind and realizing, okay, yeah, that kind of parallels their life. Shit, I could probably do that too. And then while you're digging your way and creating the pathway, they're welcome to follow you or not. But then sometimes you get to a point where you realize, like, shit, I just spent so many years building this life and understanding this process, and now you want all the answers? Well, shit, that's going to cost you now. And that's where I realized I want to build a business where I can go fund my life and do all these things while also having that skill set being put into practice to where it's going to change the world. And again, like at the end of the day, I'm basically like a personal trainer or like fitness coach that just also incorporates like, conversations on dating and business and whatnot. Yeah. And I'd have the best job in the world, in my opinion. Because I love what I do, and I look forward to my call tomorrow with my guys every Monday morning, Bali time, but Sunday evening for people in the States. Like, that is the call that I look forward to. Some people don't look forward to client calls because they hate what they do. Yeah. Maybe even with an agency. I don't necessarily love it, but I have business. I get text messages or referrals of partners saying, hey, I have this client that needs this. And cool. I don't hate it. So we're like, I'm still going to do it, and it's good cash flow. But, I have the ability to say, you know what, I don't want to do that. versus most people don't. And that's where my years of hard work have paid off to where I can be in this position now, which is nothing compared to the position that my 30-year-old self, I see myself being. But at least that 18-year-old self that maybe many other people are at now, at like say 40, where they're like, fuck, I don't have any flexibility to start a new business or say no to a job or say no to a client. Like the fact that I'm 26, being able to do that and be like, I'm going to go to South Africa. I'm going to go do this. And I have clients that tell me, hey, we want to do this stuff in the States. Like, cool. When I go back there again, we can do it. But like, if I don't ever go back, oh well, no worries. That is a sense of freedom that I think a lot of people don't realize is like available to them because they, again, like don't have that discipline to put in the work, see progress, and realize like, yeah, maybe things are hard to create in your life for sure. But if you have the right support system, you have people around you, and that people that push you, block can happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's like you don't have to do these things now, but then you'll just have a harder life later. Or you could do these hard things now, and you'll have an easy life later.
For sure.
So whatever one you want, and it's truly all up to you to create it or to not create it. And I think I'd most rather be on my deathbed and meet myself with the maximum potential and be as close to him as possible.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I have so many great stories I can tell. And especially this past year of traveling around the world, being in different countries, and really prioritizing like myself and my life and like my story I'm writing for myself. I have so many things I can talk about on a stage or on a podcast or just through content versus a couple of years ago, right? It's like I wanted to have these things. So what's the difference between now and back then? Well, I just jumped. I constantly lived my life. I pushed myself. I did things that I didn't typically do. And it can even be as simple as like an improv comedy class. I've been going to that on the at this place in Ubud here in Bali because it's a new place. It's a place to like laugh. It's like a bunch of different people. We all look and talk different. Meaning like there's people that are like more into fitness. There's some people that are just way opposite of that. I don't care. They're just cool people that I get to laugh with, and we do these improv exercises, and we all just like have a good time for 2 hours, like once or twice a week. Like that is getting out of my comfort zone. And that's the point. It's like, yes, you want to focus on self-improvement and bettering yourself, but also recognize that you don't have to just do that because then you might burn out. That's where you can also have people that you do fun things with. But the point is, I like doing fun things with people that I know at the end of the day, I can actually connect with. They're going to be real with me. And if I'm fucking up in an area of my life, they're going to call me out. And I don't have the ego to where that call out is going to be painful for me. It's rather going to be like, oh shit, you think I just spoke disrespectfully to my girlfriend, or maybe I got a call or like whatever. Like, thank you for acknowledging that. Like, let me actually check myself. Like those are the type of conversations that all of us men need, but too many of us are not willing to have them because we have egos, or maybe we don't have the right people around us. So change that shit and your life will change.
Yeah, I saw this video today and I was like, you think that friend of yours is an asshole because he tells you when you're fucking up or when you're doing the wrong shit, but really the assholes are the people that around you that aren't saying anything.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. And when you have that shift of like seeing the asshole, right, you're like who is actually on your side versus who isn't, that's when I think your life really can progress. Because then you're like, wow, I actually don't want these 9 out of 10 people that aren't saying anything in my life. I want that one person that did just make a comment to me. But again, like that's where constructive criticism and criticism are completely different. Constructive criticism is someone saying, hey, well, you sound like an idiot because this is actually how things are. And here's the science, or here's the whatever. I want you to succeed. I don't want you to sound like an idiot anymore. That is such a valuable conversation point and like comment versus you're an idiot. Being told I'm an idiot doesn't support me, right? So if you can, that's why, again, like we all are students and we all are teachers. Anytime that you want to criticize someone, cool. I'm all for like, if you think someone is wrong, cool. Like have a conversation or like speak your mind. Have that freedom of speech, but also recognize that, are you actually trying to support that person and get them on to the side that you believe is the light side and they're on the dark side? Or are you just trying to create a war and you're basically doing the opposite or like the same of what the other side's doing, but you're just on the opposite side of the line of saying like, no, you're evil, you're bad, you're this or that. It's like, I think our world was so much better if we all kind of came together and focused on taking accountability and recognizing that maybe we're all wrong in different ways, but at the end of the day, that's never going to happen. So
Yeah, it's like we're all trying our best based off like our past experiences and like our perception of reality. And yeah, it's like
Starting to run out of conversation points. What's should we maybe think of a good way to wrap up? Is there maybe like a
yeah, I have a question that I always ask at the end.
yeah.
Basically, the question is, if your younger self was to sit right in front of you right now, what piece of advice would you give him?
Stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan.
Yep.
But what's the plan?
What the plan I came up with? The plan that I knew I wanted to work towards, that my friends didn't see, my family didn't see, and I didn't see in real time progress coming towards that. I saw my future life. The house I lived in, there was this influencer person that lived in it. I lived next to the FaZe clan, and where like FaZe Blanks, Alyssa Violet, and all these people were living in 2017, 18. And I moved into the house right next door to them. There's like this cloud house, FaZe house, and like this house in the middle. I remember being online and seeing one person living in that specific house. I think Sam Colder was there for a little bit, if you're familiar with that guy. Okay, that's it. Long story short, like these influencers that were living there, I'm like, it would be so cool to like live in a house. But I wasn't like actively trying to find a way to go move into it. But I remember watching these people there, and I'm like, seeing how that could be a reality for me, and I wanted it. And flash forward time, and an opportunity comes in to where I see an ad on Craigslist moving to a mansion. And it was a lot of money, 5-figure deposit, but being able to actually move in there and make that happen after years of sleeping on the floor, or years of like hard work, and then starting from working at a Subway after I graduated from high school, working at a Subway, sleeping on the floor of my grandparents' house, getting heartbroken from my girlfriend at the time, and having a lot of family shit, and just like feeling like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like externally, I couldn't look around and be like, yep, I can see how I'm making progress. But I had that mentality of, I know I want to build something for myself, and I want to do these things in my life. And while I didn't have all the knowledge as well at that time period, I did have the mentality of, I have the heart and I'm going to figure it out. So for my advice to my younger self would be, stick to the plan. Come up with your vision. If certain things don't work, cool. Adapt, pivot. But no matter what, this is the plan that we're going to overall stick to, and we're going to either get there or die trying. Like 50 Cent, like get rich or die trying. That's kind of the mentality.
I like that, because like I think for a lot of the viewers, you know what you want to do. You have that thing deep in your soul or your mind, whatever it is. You have that thing that that you want to do. You can see yourself living that thing out. And so I think that's really good. Stick to the fucking plan.
Fuck yeah.
Get rich or die trying.
Exactly, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
See you guys next time.
Boom.